go. Picks and bans for game number 1, CJ Entus versus Jinair in our LoL Champions Korea regional qualifier. And, well, it's World Champions Korea, actually, regional qualifier. I would change that if I could go in and edit the text there. There's a Lulu ban against Jinair coming out. Azir against Coco, no big surprise. He is one of the best aggressive Azirs I think we've ever seen. There's the Fiora ban.
Interesting to see a Fiora ban just because Trace doesn't really have the mindset of a carry. This is a guy where Malphite coming into the meta made a lot of sense. We knew Trace would pick it up because it fits right into his Maokai Rumble champion pool. Now, a year ago when he was a top lane Rengar guard, it was a different world. But in 2015, that's what we're left with. But finally the Malphite ban, the Naja Knight, has finally been banned away.
I just find it so hilarious that people are banning Malphite. Like, for some reason, Korea's having a really hard time playing around Malphite's very obvious ult. You know what he's going to do. If you have good vision, he can't flank you, and that's really the big concern, isn't it? Otherwise, just don't group up.
I don't know if it's 6-0 or 7-0, but Malphite has not lost since the reintroduction by Smeb, so something's certainly working. It does feel a bit like we're getting a window into Silver solo queue, but Fizz is banned away. And Gangbang insta-locked as first pick.
Yeah, look at that. The question is, where's it going to go, mid or top? I feel like it's going to go mid. I feel like this is going to be definitely a Coco-style champion here, but you never know. I mean, Shy, they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but I feel like Shy can buck the trend once in a while.
So the key bans against Jinair that I was speculating pre-broadcast were Lulu, Malphite, and Gangplank. And 2 of those champions banned away. The last one is first picked, so that's smart picks. As you mentioned, we've only seen 2 reworked Gangplanks, both of them in the mid lane, so we're expecting to see that. And of course, GBM's not really known for a high-pressure style. This guy likes to play the wave clear. It's why you could tell that the Lulu fits his playstyle, that the Gangplank would fit his playstyle. So how will he pressure and deny free farmers? One thing we didn't even notice, that actually leads Kalista to the 2nd round of a draft in Korea.
Well, that's something I don't think we've seen. I can't remember the last time we saw Kalista left to the 2nd round of the draft like that as far as GBM goes. So I wonder if maybe an Orianna pick would be good here. We saw him use it in Game 3 versus Najin just the other day. I feel like it could fit in well here too, depending on what gets picked up.
We think back to Game 1, of course it was the attempt to run the LeBlanc against Gangplank. Couldn't apply enough pressure, gave Gangplank a free farm lane, and he kind of took over the game in the late game. So I think it's a risk to go wave clear as Gragas. They go for the strong ganking jungler with the disengage. Where else will the draft round out?
Well, do you really have to take away Kennen here? I mean, it's so strong with Kalista. Looks like CJ's a bit worried about it. But where do you send it? Do you send it to the top lane, or do you make Mad Life play it? Because it's not really a champion that he's played a lot.
I think it has to be in the support role. We don't see a lot of top Kennen. Acorn throws it around a little bit for LGD, but it seems almost purely a support champion. It's all about dominating the 2v2 lane. Lucian Kennen, Lucian Kalista, sorry, Kennen Kalista. These are the strong lane duos. And let's think about CJ Entus. Ambition and Mad Life don't have the best synergy. They're roam synergy. They're definitely not, say, Peekaboo and Score from KT-esque ability to get on the same page in terms of invades. Maybe they'll just dominate the laning phase and let Ambition do his thing in a solo manner.
I wonder what we're going to see here from Jinair. The other thing that we haven't mentioned yet is where's the Ashe, right? Ashe has been so high priority in Korea over the last couple weeks. No sign of it yet today.
I mean, with Kalista locked in, you don't want to show Ashe until you're forced to. Of course, if you prioritize it high enough, you might have to pick it in an early round, but with Kalista already locked in, smart to leave it open. Yeah. And again, it's a no-escape AD carry, so you want to keep that shrouded as long as possible. It still looms as a very likely pick. They've already got a disengage ult in Gragas and a control ult in terms of the Kennen, so we're expecting that to come out through the draft.
Well, I think Jinair's totally ready for it, too. They've got the Alistar, they've got the Maokai, they've got hard engage to get in on that Ashe if Space does decide to go with it. I think Tristana would be fine, but he's hovering over the Ashe right now. And a Victor would mean that this Gangplank would be going top, which is not what we expected. Shy may be busting out a new champion here.
This would be a real surprise. See Shy shift gears. It'd be a good thing. Of course, he was once a very strong Rise top player, and he played that in a carry fashion. But he's definitely going against type. And when players like Trace and Shy try to put the carry pants on, the results are mixed.
They are. I mean, we've seen Shy carry really hard on things like Shyvana. We've seen him carry very, very not hard on things like Fizz. So, although, if I remember right, he's like 75% win rate with his Fizz in the last few games, but that's like Lee's Rengar from Season 1, from spring season this year, so don't think about it too much.
So is GBM going to pick for lane? Notably, Diana is available. Diana with teleport has been the common pick against Victor. Has a good 1v1 matchup, gets so tanky with the shield that you can't burst her down, and then just adds that extra wrinkle, that extra headache in the late game. But no,
Orianna.
going to go much. If we say that Shy went against type with a carry champion, GBM going exactly as we'd expect with the Orianna. Okay, they have the excellent ball carriers, whether it's Elise, whether it's Maokai, whether it's Alistar. They have a lot of initiation options to set up GBM, but it still is a passive lane. And will they be able to pressure the Gangplank, or even top lane Gangplank, get away with a fairly passive early game?
Yeah, I mean, we're still seeing this Gangplank figured out a lot in Korea, so it'll be interesting to see what Shy can do with him. I think the biggest question now is, can Shy handle this champion?
Last time we saw top lane Gangplank was in the Champions Finals. We did see Sunday try it, but he got dived aplenty. And with the likes of Maokai and Elise, that is an excellent duo to try and account for the Gangplank. Dive him as if he's a Rise and try and just delay any sort of power spike. This guy has a very expensive build, i.e. Trinity Force, two of the most expensive items in the game. Just try and wipe him out early and ensure he never reaches 3-4 damage items.
Dude, those finals, I don't even want to think about it, man. Too short, only 3 games. Let's get into game 1 between CJ and Jinair. We are moving right along here as we get one step closer to declaring our 3rd seed for the World Championships. CJ Entus versus Jinair. Welcome to Summoner's Rift. And we'll see who takes this best of 5, goes on to face KT Rolster tomorrow. Not a lot of prep time for the winner today.
Definitely not. No, they would have to be thinking ahead to tomorrow if they wanted to have any cogent strategies specifically for a KT team. Of course, coming off what is demoralizing 3-0 loss to SKT not a week ago.
Yeah.
So we might actually see the two teams meeting as they're both in 5-man formation, but going to be spotted out by the volatile Spider Lane.
Yep, that's right. No mystery about where CJ is right now. Jinair.
Oh boy.
Cheese is strong. Mad Life walks right up to the bush. They go. They flash. The Pulverize misses. Mad Life flashes. In response, Ambition gets very low. So does Che, though. First blood goes over to Coco. Uh-oh, Shy and Ambition really low, though. A kill for GBM. They could get more. Chaser turns away at the last second. Sapling doesn't connect with Shy. They're still going. Another flash used by CJ. Jinair still chasing. Can they catch anybody else? Coco getting so low right now, but he's going to make it back to his turret. They're going to turn this one around for a little bit more damage onto Trace. Nice volley from space. But at the end of the day, kills for both mid laners. Assists for everybody else.
To say that was an insane fight, though, Doa, is an understatement. 10 flashes used in a level 1. We're going to see the replay. Now, the big issue is that Che, where was the stun? We didn't see.
No Pulverize.
Maybe it was a pole flash that missed. I couldn't tell by the replay, but Che falls out. He's the one to get first, but they pick up for a counter kill. But small advantage goes to CJ Entus.
Yeah. So, second Doran's Ring picked up by Coco. Fairy Charm picked up by GBM. So going for just a little bit more mana here early on. Mana regen, rather.
So it shouldn't affect the matchup too much. We're definitely expecting passive farm wars in the mid lane. There has been a lane swap, you can see, as Kallista's in the top lane. Che's still going to harass any sort of level 1, any sort of invade or contest around bus. It's now that much more risky because there's no flashes if you make any sort of small mistake.
Yeah, very true. And with something like the powder kegs from Gangplank, you really can't get too close anyway if you're a melee support like Alistar in that situation. So Che just backing off right away. He's actually going to recall. Oh, no, he's not. He's actually not. Nope, he is going to recall.
It looks like they might send him for the 2v2. Maokai Alistar in the bot lane.
Probably,
try and get Callista the solo farm in top. This kind of suits Jinair to some degree. I mean, you might think, okay, you want a 2v2 in Ashe without flash, specifically with Alistar for the all-in.
Yeah.
But the big factor is that you're still going to be plonked in a lane against Kennen without the flash. You don't have much surprise potential. And he's going to take free auto attacks from what is definitely the highest damage, high harass support. So getting Callista the free farm, as this will all end up with the counter lane swap, suits Jinair just fine.
That should be. Che slowly making his way down to the spot lane to help out Trace, who's got a measly 2 CS right now. With that Lantern dangling dangerously behind his dry wooden back. So risky. Just light yourself on fire at any moment.
I'm really interested to watch specifically Shy on this game plan. Now, we've seen someday playback game plan, and I wasn't really convinced. His barrel linking, it feels like the use of that powder keg separates the good Gangplank players from people that are just picking up because it's clearly one of the most in vogue and strongest champions on this particular patch, patch 5.15. So
totally.
whether we see those intricate links, the likes that SOAS from Origin and, of course, GBM showed 2 days ago, or whether we'll see someone that's just picking it because it's definitely one of the strongest champions available.
Well, it certainly does seem like a champion right now that requires a lot of practice, a lot of finesse to play well.
Has a lot of specific mechanics that don't just typify the role. It's definitely Gangplank requires like 10, 20 games of practice minimum to really just get your head around the potential of this champion, because the range you can do, massive burst damages, specifically once you can get Infinity Edge and crit, it's just surprising.
Yeah, I love that kind of stuff too. I mean, I think they really did a great job with the rework, and he's become a really interesting, entertaining champion. Stray's going to go back for a bit more health, it looks like. Force out of lane, but you're going to be forced out of lane if you're against an Ash Cannon. That's just going to happen.
These two teams, Jin Air Green Wings and CJ Entus, they're both orientated around playing passive farm games in the early game. You can tell from the picks, we're not really seeing a strong pick comp from either side, whereas at least Maokai might have some decent synergy. In general, we're seeing a pretty passive early setup. These teams, 5th and 6th overall in gold difference at 15 minutes. So of the top teams, they're definitely on the lower echelon. They're both looking to play that passive laning phase, and honestly, it probably is in the advantage of CJ Entus just because Gangplank and Victor have such an expensive build, but such a high item cap for relevance in the late game team fights. These guys can really go off if they're given just the passive time to farm.
Yeah, and I mean, that is one of the interesting things about this matchup, is that these teams are pretty similar overall in terms of playing a pretty passive early game most of the time and then coming back with good decision making and good team fighting in the late game. But I gotta say, overall, CJ's been a lot better at that this last season than Jin Air has. Now, the Jin Air we saw against Najin was a completely different Jin Air team than we saw in the regular season, so maybe they can go toe-to-toe with CJ right now. But if you look at the larger sample size of the regular season, CJ, you'd think they'd have the edge coming into this one. Mad Life taking a lot of damage from Trace, though.
Definitely going to need to see the Jin Air Green Wings that played 2 days ago. You look at the difference between these teams. Now, you got control mids. You know, you can just pretty much discount the Orianna versus Victor matchup. Maybe slightly in the advantage of Orianna in the late game, but pretty much a wash. The top lane tells a story. It's a hard carry top laner in Gangplank, who has a very expensive build against a Maokai who's probably going to rush for the team fight utility, probably going to rush for the Righteous Glory. You look at the AD carries. You give the advantage to Ashe in the late game over the Kalista, but Kalista has that amazing 1-2 item power spike. Yeah. So because you have those earlier spikes on the Maokai, on the Kalista, Jin Air have the onus to make the most of it in terms of setting up objectives. Get that dragon control, get some outer turrets, get a roll on. Otherwise, if you just passive farm for 35 minutes, CJ Entus definitely have it the advantage in terms of the picks, at least.
Yeah, I mean, you think the dragons are really what Jin Air is going to want to focus on more than anything this game, early on anyway, as they do have that earlier strength in the team fight there.
If you set up any pink wards, you have someone like Elise or Maokai with that direct CC, Alistair as well. The pick potential's there to set up the Orianna ultimate. So Dragon Fight's in their purview, but regular season Jin Air, that might be a window they wouldn't be able to take advantage of. But this post-season Jin Air, at least judging on one series against Najin, only 3 games, they understand their primary win condition is to get rolling fast.
Yeah. Yeah, it was bizarre to see Najin fall apart like that. You know, it almost seemed like they just weren't taking Jin Air very seriously, and man, they definitely needed to. Chaser coming in for maybe a gank in this mid lane, but Coco's playing around it pretty safely at the moment. And here comes Che as well. There's a 3-man gank. They try to catch Che. The shockwave doesn't catch Coco. Gets out of it. There's a summer heal, still taking a lot of damage. Looks like he's going to go down. GBM lows off. Nice Ash Arrow helps Coco pick up the kill. So it is at least a trade. Mid laner for mid laner. There's Ambition not quite in the mid lane soon enough to take advantage of Chaser's low health, but nice arrow from space really saved that from being much worse for CJ.
And even though it didn't squarely hit GBM. It was the damage radius and the slow to keep him in the ult field that was enough to pick up the kill. So nice assist coming through for Space, like you mentioned.
Good enough, but kills going on to both mid laners, so things pretty much even after all that. It's a bit of a wash.
CJ certainly overperformed given the fact that GBM had a pink ward on the right side. Coco wasn't actually playing around a ward at all. It looked like he was hugging the right side because he was the one that had the defensive vision, but he was blind. Guessed the right side, bluffed the right side correctly, but they ended up with a trade despite all those extra resources being invested by JAG Green.
You know, maybe you do stay towards that side just because it's just that much closer to where Space's arrow can be if you need it.
Might just be the knowledge they knew that they were jungling on that side, but either way, certainly came off for Coco and CJ.
It's pretty surprising. Meanwhile, we've got the duos down in bot again, finally. A little bit of a CS lead for Pilot. But all they need Pilot and Shay to do is just kind of survive, you know? They need him to farm up, be ready for that first dragon fight.
And they have the wave in a good spot if dragon is the objective they've smartly thought out. Space gets a bit of red damage. Shay's falling low.
Oh yeah, Pilot has to use that ult. Cannon Barrage comes in from Shy, and they had to use the Fate's Call to save Shay.
With the Cannon Barrage down, suddenly there's a really big window to take this dragon while that cooldown's not available. Even though both Trace and Shy have their teleports available, the only AoE impact Shy realistically will have if he's teleporting late after the dragon's being started is that ultimate. It won't be available. Malphite can have such a higher amount of team fight impact.
Can you do that without Shay being level 6?
I don't think it's that important. Like, we can't see the experience bar right now. I mean, it'd be ideal to have him at 6, but just with Shy having so little impact, just a Ruby Crystal and no ultimate available, they have a lot of control over Dragon, but they don't have the ward control, or at least the exclusive ward control, so they're not going to try it just yet.
Yeah, looks like they're going to leave it for now. They do spot Chaser, though, hanging out in the river. There's a ward there anyway, so they knew what was up. Just trying to keep Shay from getting that level 6, trying to deny that XP for as long as possible. And here comes Ambition. Gonna get spotted by this ward immediately, so Shay and Pilot, no real big mystery about what's going on there.
This is around the top side. Not clear if she's going to try and gank mid. It's going to be optimistic. Already spotted out by a ward, so Coco just standing defensively. You can see Shy also got the information setting up a defensive ward as well. The tower dive potential onto Shy is high, but given the fact that complete information is out there for CJ, it's going to be difficult.
Here comes Chaser anyway. Meanwhile, Ambition, CJ goes for it. They see Chaser up in the top lane. Shy running away to his advance, gets pushed back anyway, tries to get back under turret. There's a nice cocoon. Can they finish him off? Looks like they probably can. There's the ultimate, and Shy flash. Nice moves by Shy. Arrow comes through, and it's Chaser. Shy goes down anyway, and Chaser not taking turret aggro. Super lucky there that he didn't actually hit Shy before the arrow hit him. Otherwise, he would have been dead to that turret. Definitely.
2 out of 2 for the arrows from Space, though. He almost had, once again, the assist from downtown. Going to feel a bit unfortunate. Jinair pick up the immediate gold at the cost of the Dragon that was really screaming to be the main win condition. Now, wanting to control Dragon, though, Doa, with an Orianna in the mid, is a bit of questionable drafting. I mean, it's one of those situations where you have a champion that doesn't really peak until, say, 2 items. A big needlessly large rod purchase after picking up the big cooldown reduction item in the Athene. So they didn't necessarily have a team comp that demanded Dragon control, but that was their clearest win condition. They did not get it.
Wow. I am so surprised that Chaser lived through that one. He was like a pixel away from autoing Shy, and if he had, he would have been dead to that turret.
Was lucky the minion wave was in the right spot. He was stunned for 3.5 seconds. That is how long the stun is at max range.
Space saved him with the arrow. Thanks, Space. Jinair MVP, Space.
Nice when that works out.
Yep.
They have a lot of control over this bottom lane. Consistently had it pushed out, but wasn't able to turn that into Dragon control because of Elise's pathing into the top lane. Will we see Chaser play around the strong lane, around Trace, who's 10 CS but crucially a turret up and needs defensive vision if he wants to be able to push out and force this gangplank under his inner turret?
Yeah, we'll see. Question is, what does Jinair do now? I mean, now that Dragon's out of the way, that was going to be kind of one of their goals early on. What do? Do you just try to push lanes as hard as you can? Do you just sort of sit back and wait for a little bit?
I mean, sitting back, it doesn't work. When we're talking about the likes of Gangplank, who's picking up free farm with no pressure on him whatsoever, the counterplay to Elena freezing is to force other objectives around the map. It's why freezing hasn't really been a viable strategy since we remember Flame regularly setting up the Flame Horizon a couple of years ago, is that you pay for it in every other lane. So just take your early power spike jungler, try and push down more objectives, and set up to ensure that first dragon is just a blip on the radar for Jin Air Green Wings and establish a monopolization over the further dragons in the game.
I remember that, back when Flame would just let his turret die just so he could sit there and farm for the next 20 minutes and then come in as this unstoppable juggernaut.
Now
before
Flame,
the unstoppable juggernauts of 516.
Now Flame plays about 15 games a year and plays tanks in Rumble.
I guess so. Oh, Flame. It's okay. I don't mind.
He doesn't seem to mind either.
I guess not.
He's going to Worlds, Doa.
I guess he is.
He's probably going to play.
Will he play?
Yes. Against Kaboom or some team.
This has been one of those years already because we've got Ryu going to Worlds, we've got Flame going to Worlds. It's like all the players. Now we just need Kakao to go.
We were depressed about the exodus from the Korean League, but at least some of these players who just didn't have that on their resume are finally finding ways to make it to Worlds.
Sure enough. How far will they get?
So Jin Air, they push their advantage around the top lane. Ambition very sad when he body slams over. So taking that out of turret, pushing up the wave, grants them, at least theoretically, control over this blue side jungle. That's one of the resources that should be a given, just given how much control they've had over Shy. So smart to pick up the blue buff. They've got the exact timer around that. And it's going to pass over their own blue buff to GBS.
Yep. Works out. Meanwhile, Chain Pilot able to push this bot lane back a little bit. They've done a tiny amount of damage to the turret. Not a ton, obviously. Space and Mad Life have pretty decent wave clear. It's going to take a while for Jin Air to push the objective like this.
All comes down to using their power spikes, using the comp they put together. The likes of the Maokai and Kalista. Maokai still short of either Home Guard boots or the Righteous Glory, but you have to feel pretty close to completing one of those items. It's going to be paramount in 2 minutes when the dragon spawns, but Kalista would play the Ruin King. Righteous Glory Maokai. It should be objective control for at least the next 10 to 20 minutes till these Gangplank items, the Sheen and the Parts of a Phage, turns into Trinity Force and honestly, most of Infinity Edge.
Are we going to see a dive here onto Shy?
Really risky to dive in a turret.
It does seem that way, yeah. Chaser thinking about it. Cocoon comes in. He's harassing Shy quite nicely. They just want to get the turret. Won't be able to do too much damage to it as the minion wave's still a little ways off. But it's something at least. They force Shy back.
Really not giving much defensive resource to Shy. They're going to use it to push aggressively, so they pick up an objective. This is a spot 2 days ago where in a similar situation we saw Che regularly rotating on the cannon to provide defensive utility, to stop the dives, to stop the inner turret going down. Okay, the cannon barrage buys time, but you need to provide some roams to help out the Gangplank because he's being systematically shut down by Jin Air.
Isn't that kind of unfair that Gangplank can have like people shoot cannons into Summoner's Rift from somewhere else, but Orianna can't have like a, I don't know, like a flying mechanical ship come and help her out or something?
That makes some sense. If you move the camera over to the corner of the map, you can see the greater Summoner's Rift area. It just means that a pirate ship is, you know, parked around the rift for
or it's just got mounted cannons on like the walls around Summoner's Rift or something. It may not be coming. It only says cannon barrage.
Well, if Riot just zooms out the camera a little bit further, maybe we'll be able to see where those cannons actually protrude.
Maybe. I bet it's from Dominion. Nobody's looking there. It's okay.
Nobody's been looking there for a while, Doa.
Just Gangplank can just hide his cannons there. No one will notice. I think CJ's going to notice his turret going down, though. Pilot doing a lot of damage to it. CJ trying to respond with the turret up in top lane, though.
CJ are actually looking for the immediate goal. The fact that they've sent their bottom lane top means they have really no hope to control Dragon, but Jin Air actually looking to fight over it, despite the fact that Dragon is such an easy objective when they're sending multiple members. They're really looking to stop this fast push up top.
It's weird, though, because you'd think they'd want to tie up the Dragons.
When you give away the first one, your win condition moves back another 5-6 minutes, then suddenly establishing that win condition can get very speculative. You're talking about what?
There we go.
47 minutes into the game to establish 5 Dragons because the first one was taken away. So you can understand at least cheating towards and thinking, okay, let's stop this. But the smarter, more measured move, given the power of the champs, the likes of Elise, the pick champions they put together, is to pick up this first counter Dragon. And the result is that immediate gold and a little bit of snowball towards the likes of Shy, who's really had to deal with just the scraps that's really been targeted out in the early game.
He's caught up a lot of CS too. We'll see
Gangplank with time. Powder keg comes down, AoE comes down, 8 gold bonus for each minion. That's what? I believe about 40–50% bonus gold each minion kill. He certainly puts the gold together.
If you can get those crits, you're in good shape. Cannon barrage used just to keep this minion away from the turret. And it may not be quite enough. No, it looks like Jinair's still going to get it. With Dragon down, though, Shy doesn't really need to save the ultimate too much. The question is, how fast can Jinair push down this mid turret? If they can get that down, they can be in a pretty good spot.
Gold is all but even. Dragon's certainly even. The control isn't. Chase has been poking around both the enemy blue and now the red side jungle as well.
He's done a good job of keeping the jungle occupied, keeping it warded.
But the pass mark for CJ is to be within, say, 1 or 2 dragons, so competitive in dragon score, and the gold lead staying around this mark 10, 12, 15 minutes from now. If they can keep this, the arm's length they're at, less than 1,000 gold, their comp will hit high gear very soon. Trinity Force already completed for Gangplank. So it's on Jinair to find that next step, break the outer ring, ensure that even competing for Dragon is not an objective by pushing up vision and denying both blue and red buff from CJ Entus.
Right. We've talked a little bit about what going to Worlds means to GBM. Obviously, it means a lot to CJ as well. I mean, Shy and Madlife were part of that CJ Frost team back in Season 2 that got to the Grand Finals, lost to TPA. And you know they'd like to get back and have another chance at it.
It's real. This team is filled with true veterans, Doa, Shy, Ambition, Space, and Madlife have all been around the scene for multiple years. Space was on the bench for a long time, and of course played with Muse in the original CJ Entus when Insec and Dade was still on the roster many, many years ago. So how many more opportunities will they realistically have to make it to Worlds? This might be the last one for at least some of these team members.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you know players like Shy and Madlife, Ambition have to be considering retirement at this point. They're still solid, but there's a lot of players wanting to come up, take that spot in CJ.
Honestly, that's the way I look at the CJ Entus team as a whole. They're pretty solid. They don't have any really big problems. When Coco gets going, they have a true carry in the mid lane, but that's kind of where you stop. They don't have this synergy. They don't have the big plays.
Oh, arrow comes through, hits Chase. Chase stopped up a little bit, could get pulled in by Fate's Call at any moment here. He's not going to, though. Pops that ultimate. There's a knock-up and Ambition, going to push him back against the wall. A kill for Pilot, and there we go. Kennen not really able to find a good angle onto Jinair. Coco forced out. Shockwave gets Space and Coco. More damage coming in for Jinair, but a lot of members low as Shy tries to take people out, but he's a glass cannon, literally. And Shy trying to get away, very low. The ball's going to take him down. And Jinair, 3 for 0. Chaser, very, very low. Che and Pilot as well. They're going to push up this mid lane. And we see, I mean, that Gangplank can do a lot of damage, but it is so fragile as well.
It's solid team fighting from Jinair, but remember, CJ Entus, the team that I said wants to scale up to 30 minutes, initiated that fight before they'd hit any true power spikes and lost it just because, remember, Gangplank's only got 1 item. Their team is still very much scaling up, and they tried to fight against a Maokai who had Righteous Glory, who had the Ninja Tabi, against a Callista who has the much earlier item spike. So this is an unnecessary fight initiation from CJ, and they shouldn't be surprised that when all's said and done, they just don't have the power at 20 minutes to take out Jinair.
Well, Che was not the guy they wanted to hit here. Tracer flashed out of the way of the arrow. And then, man, catching both of the carries there in that shockwave. A great play by GBM. He is definitely one of the better Oriannas we've seen in Korea.
At this point, if you want to be fighting for fights with Gangplank, who's clipped by the Orianna spells right at the end of the fight, you need to be the team with the ward control so you can set down the powder kegs and dare the enemy team to walk over that massive AoE damage. If you're teleporting in late and trying to lay down powder kegs, you better have 2 or 3 damage items, because if you miss them, it's not going to be big, as the wave clear certainly already is.
It's a lot of money.
It's like 130 gold from one Q.
Yeah. Yeah, Gangplank can really make the big bucks.
You fast forward 10 minutes into the game and that same initiation comes down. It's a decent fight for CJ, but just again, pulled the trigger too early and didn't play around their comp's win conditions, and they paid for it.
Certainly did. A little bit of pressure on the mid lane, but not really anything that Jinair can't handle. And pretty crucially, Jinair got that second dragon as well. So they've got those evened up. Janair thinking of coming in. They tried to throw Che in onto Coco.
Che's Alistair this game. A bit all over the place.
Ambition caught a little bit, uses that explosive cast to force everyone to walk through the cannon barrage, but they're just going to walk out. Arrow comes through, hits Che again. Again, not the greatest target. Command Protect keeps him extra safe, doesn't even need to use that ultimate. That's what, 3 ultimates used just to kind of get away there?
Yeah, Ambition used his ult for disengage and then space initiated, so even then, clearly, the communication is not really on board between the two teams.
Yeah, CJ is still looking a bit awkward, but we're getting into that phase where CJ suddenly like flips the switch and becomes an amazing team fighting team. We're like 5 minutes away from that. Can Janair handle them then? CJ's so weird. They look so disjointed until, you know, like what, 25, 30 minutes, and then suddenly they become this like godly team fighting team. But if they try to fight before that, things usually don't go too well.
Looking for a fight. Dragon is live. This is a Dragon they should claim with the strength of their comp, with the strength of the item pickups they have now.
With those ultimates being down as well.
You're right. The Gragas ultimate's about 10 seconds away, so he'll be up soon. CJ just happy to create pressure on the map to buy time for those big cooldowns to be available.
They're going to trade that Dragon for what they hope is going to be a tier 2, but if I was CJ, I'd be worried about getting caught by Janair as they come back down the lane, and that's exactly what Janair's going to try to do. Trace coming in for the flank, that's right. Not a lot of angles to get away if you are CJ right now. Pilot sitting over the wall. Che, the ball delivery system has been activated. Coming in, Madlife tries to do an engage before anyone gets in there. He just gets taken out immediately. Space on the run through the team gets crushed. Goodbye Shy as well. And CJ just gets destroyed. It's going to be an ace. I don't think Ambition's getting out of this one. Cocoon misses. Maybe he gets away. Oh well, they don't need to take him out. They can just go right for Baron if they want to.
Chaser didn't cover himself in glory with those skill shots, but CJ enters again forcing things. I can understand the mindset. Like, okay, we can't pick up Dragon, let's get something. That something is not an inner turret when the enemy team has the earlier power spike that's been looking to fight anyway. They only wanted to fight around Dragon. They weren't that interested in claiming it, but then they get the fight, they get the Dragon, they get everything, and it's certainly going to be a Baron as well for Janair. I don't understand the thought process for CJ Enders to keep looking for fights at 25 minutes into a game with a gangplank top.
Well, you know, that time they were looking for a turret, but they knew they should have known that they were going to have a team fight either way, and it was going to be in an unfavorable position. They don't even get the turret. Jay just walks right in. Madlife.
Coco literally instantly dies. That's the big factor. Is there's no Victor who has a lot of the gold, who had a farm lane against Orianna, and then of course it's just scraps, and you're fighting against a Blade the Ruin King, Hurricane Callista. You get flanked by Alistair. You are going to lose that fight 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, GBM's doing a great job of doing damage, but also providing peel for Callista in that case. Madlife tried to ult in with the Slicing Maelstrom, but there was no follow-up.
I really like the comp that CJ put together. They have Disengage for the Ashe, they have Control Ultimate, the likes of, say, the Victor W, the Cannon Ultimate to keep Ashe alive, to keep Gangplank alive, because of course he's a squishy damage dealer as well. But you have to understand your windows, and CJ just don't seem to understand that their window was far later. Their window was closed for 30 minutes, but they kept trying to force it open, and when you force against a team with early power spikes, you lose.
Well, the problem with CJ is that while they are a very good late-game team-fighting team, if they're in a position like this, where it doesn't really work, that switch still flips. And CJ's like, this is the part of the game where we fight. And then if it doesn't work, they just keep doing it until they lose.
But a late-game team-fighting team should understand when the late game starts. It's when you see Infinity Edge. It's when you see multiple items on the likes of Ashe, a Last Whisper to help her get through Maokai and Alistair, for example. But instead, they just don't understand that window, try and force things, and it doesn't work. Yeah,
it's like a game clock thing rather than a compositional, situational thing. Jay accidentally punts somebody out. Trace gets way into the back lines here. Chaser looking okay. Trace locked up, though. Janair's like, sorry, dude, we're just going to do some damage to the turret. That was not wise. Nice shockwave for the disengage. Pilot pulls in Che. That was a bit awkward. That could have gone better.
And Janair pulled off dives like that with Malphite, but Maokai and Malphite are very different champions. They didn't have the ball position, the big ult from GBM never came. Pilot didn't even commit to the dive. That was more the Janair in the late game we expect, where they have real difficulty initiating and closing out games.
That was awkward, definitely. Didn't get the turret, lost their jungler.
Still have Baron buffs, so they still have minions that mean that there's not going to be any punishment in terms of objectives from CJ. They can't push down a turret, even a 4v5 situation.
You know, the funny thing, though, is that the side waves for Jin Air are not going Jin Air's way despite having this Baron buff. So this Baron really hasn't gotten Jin Air much of anything.
It's only a 4,500 gold lead, and when we're talking about champions like Gangplank, it might be an area to punish. They do take out the inner turret.
Well, they get one, yeah.
Victor decides to prioritize picking up his blue over clearing the waves, and it would have been difficult in an outnumbered situation anyway.
You know what I mean? Without Baron, without Dragon for another 2 minutes, I suppose Jin Air thinks, well, we've got enough time to go back and push the lanes up, get ready for that Dragon, so why not just take down that tier 2 and get set up for the next Dragon?
The only worry will be that items don't really help a lot of their damage. Pilot, for example, the big thing about Callista, Blade the Ruin King, into the Hurricane, massive power spike. The next items, I guess, a Bloodthirster or Last Whisper, depending on how the game's going. Yeah. Doesn't really add a lot, and you don't have Infinity Edge to really multiply your damage potential. So you want to be fighting early when there's still this situation where, honestly, there's zero armor. There's not even a cloth armor completed for CJ Enters. Pilot will rip through the team, so you can understand the mindset of fight often, fight now, but only really the Dragon looms as a place that CJ should be opting into a fight, although they've proved me wrong before.
Oh, Shy wards the Tri-Brush. Shay and Pilot aren't able to find an angle. Hard to catch that Gangplank with the remove Scurvy. Of course, you can get out of any CC.
Even the headbutt Pulverize from Alistair, if you pop the W, that allows you to flash because the mini stun is removed, so you can even flash while you're still popped up. So a lot of counterplay against even the knockups.
So that's the thing. If remove Scurvy gets rid of any CC, does that mean that CC in League of Legends gives you Scurvy?
That's what it's suggesting.
I think that's what it is. It's like we found out something about the CC in League of Legends. Any sort of crowd control ability, so whether it's a hook or a charm, gives you Scurvy.
What I've learned is that Scurvy is comorbid with a debuff. So any sort of debuff, when Scurvy is applied to it, really affects you. So you can remove it with an orange. So orange is nutritious, but only in a situation where Scurvy and a debuff come together.
You need that vitamin C to remove the Scurvy.
That's right.
Right? Those biscuits that you get, the total biscuit of regeneration, no vitamin C in those, man. Maybe some calcium for strong bones, but you can't get rid of Scurvy.
Jin Air, so much power, even though Maokai's not in position without teleport. They understand they can just rush down the Dragon. It's only a third Dragon, so we're still talking about 42 minutes for a fifth Dragon win condition, so it could be a longer game. Remember, this time Jin Air don't have the Ashe. They don't have initiation from their AD carry. Setting up a Orianna dive didn't work out the last time they tried it, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Jin Air hang back and just focus on the objectives rather than going for the turret dives that really helped them accelerate the pace against Najin 2 days ago.
Yeah, definitely takes some time. So Scurvy is a deficiency disease, right? So does that mean that the CC like sucks all the vitamin C out of you?
That must be it.
It's like Ari, she charms you, she steals your heart, but not only does she do that, she steals all the vitamin C in your body and gives you Scurvy as well.
You're really thinking about this, Doa.
Well, I mean, you're just following one step to another, right? I'm just applying pure scientific logic to this. There's no other way to describe my process.
Applying pure scientific logic to League of Legends.
That's right.
It's definitely a path that leads you astray.
That's what we do. No, man, I feel like this is the path to understanding. You don't look like you agree.
I try not to think too much about League of Legends lore.
No, this isn't lore. This is game mechanics, man. This is your area.
That's true. I don't know about the Scurvy game mechanics are a bit scattered. I don't even know if Scurvy shows up on Gangplank's buff bar anymore.
No, really?
They removed it.
Oh, bummer. Well, I mean, it's good for Gangplank, I guess, but bummer for the rest of us. See, now they have to add that to every other CC in the game and you get it by it.
To pass the test?
It's easy, man. Making those 518 patch adjustments, there's something to add to the list, right?
Still time to get Gangplank to full power before Worlds.
That's right. Well, Baron's back up again. Jin Air setting up for this. They've got a good amount of vision, controlling CJs as well. And if you're CJ, you really need to be careful coming into here.
Jin Air needs to be decisive. You can see the split push is on from Shy. He's got Trinity Force, so he's going to take out turrets very, very fast. Jin Air are kind of umming and eyeing. They need to get this initiation off right now. They force a flash. That's not going to stop the split push.
No, it's not, but are they going to go for Baron? Okay, they will. A lot of damage taken by Shy, actually, at that top lane turret. Is he going to recall, or is he going to just keep pushing. Looks like CJ wants to try to stop this Baron by themselves.
Can't see whether the Baron health is coming down. There's a lot of rend into it.
Indecisive. Chaser gets very low. Arrow comes through. Doesn't hit anyone. Mad Life pops his ult. They're going to find Coco. Coco very low. He manages to get the kill onto Alistar before going down himself. There's space in Mad Life. Meanwhile, Shy takes out the inhibitor turret. Baron is still up. Jin Air falling apart here. They're going to lose their inhibitor.
Jin Air is being so indecisive now that they don't have that initiation. Now that Malphite, Ashe are denied away. They are all at sea around Baron, and they're going to lose a free inhibitor.
You know, we were wondering after that match versus Najin, is it just the Malphite or is it Jin Air? But they look like old Jin Air just now. They look like they didn't know what to do. Looked very indecisive, very scattered. And CJ with a pretty big edge now despite being down 3,000 gold.
How many games in the regular season did Jin Air pick multiple Barons, multiple 5th Dragons, and then not know how to close out a game? They didn't have the initiation to do it, and now we're left with a very Jin Air-esque comp. It's a nice barrel onto GBM, the ult awkwardly misses from space, but this is all just buying time. The mini-map is the real story, as Gangplank with Trinity Force builds full damage. That's the unique thing about Gangplank as a champion, is that he builds full AD damage. It means that he takes very fast inhibitors. Okay, they pick up this Baron, but you know what the worry is, Doa?
What?
With that inhibitor down, the inhibitor on the polar opposite side of the map, this Baron is theirs, but if they don't take advantage and break the base with it, they're going to be in a tough situation to be able to not orchestrate a similar situation for Gangplank to go for the same split push. And when you have that pressure, those super minions pushing onto the polar opposite of the map, it's so hard to defend both that inhibitor and threaten a Baron.
Well, it is pretty big, right, though, that they were able to get the Baron. See if they can do anything with it. Dragging up in 1:40 now. They've still got that mid lane turret. That's the really amazing part, is that they've been able to keep that tier 1 alive in the middle of the map for the entire game for about 35 minutes now. But maybe not so much longer. Will Jin Air find a fight here, though?
Poking around. It's a bit of an ARAM in the mid lane, although Chaser and Pilot are definitely out of bounds for that. They're looking to try and keep the split push up. Jin Air is so powerful grouped, but...
Well, they know, too, that 5 Dragons is going to be one of their big win conditions now.
Still a long way away, still 42 minutes if it's taken on spawn, and they have to account for these super minions as well. I guess pushing up the lane and bot lane to stop the Baron buff minion push and kiting back to Dragon is the safest course of action, but it does really allow this Baron buff timer to tick down from a CJ Enter's perspective.
Right. Well, pushing the bot lane. Back against those super minions as best they can. But how far can they go with this? They don't have the greatest siege ever.
Cheeky ward also popped down next to that downed inhibitor. So backdoor pressure is real when it respawns. They're going to keep pushing in. Super safe build from Pilot, double lifesteal and also some defense. They're just threatening a dive, but after the last one went awry, you know they're just not really going to follow through on that.
It looks like they've got the banner of command on that cannon minion as well, too. So Jin Air really trying to do everything they can.
Means that Coco can't do damage to it, only Ashe, who's struggling to get close to it. So wow, that's half health basically from one minion.
Yeah, tiny bit done by that cask, but the powder keg rather. But that cannon minion is doing work, man. And here comes the rest of the wave. They're actually going to get this tier 2. And that banner of command, very good buy for Jin Air.
Really nice purchase, like we mentioned. Gets up some of their issues in pushing. Kalista not the best champion at turret sieging with her medium range.
But that one's on Chaser, so opting for that instead of the locket.
Expecting them to kite back towards this 4th dragon. Obviously a big point of contest.
Well, Jin Air should be able to take it very quickly, though. Yeah, they're going to start it with Pilot right now. And GBM and Trace trying to save the mid lane in the meantime. There's a dragon. That's 4 now for Jin Air.
Item timings are certainly there for CJ now. The next fight is going to be a lot closer now that Trinity Force, Infinity Edge, and almost a Yomu's Ghost Blade is finished for Shy. Now, notably, we saw GBM pick up these 3 items at about 26 to 28 minutes. So he's definitely late on his build, but the power from these 3 items is certainly undeniable.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Wave in the top to worry about. I don't think GBM can defend this mid lane turret. Looks like it's finally going to go down if CJ tries for it, but they don't.
Jay's there to provide.
Okay.
Another headbutt pulverized that misses.
I guess so.
Jeanette had their waves in such wonderful order. It was one of the highlights actually of their macro play against Najin. CJ have definitely outfoxed them in minion waves, because even you've pointed out a couple of times, whenever they've looked to have power, they've had to deal with side wave minion pushes from CJ Enters.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a big part of what is keeping CJ in the game right now is their wave control has been apparently really good this game.
Difference between good and poor wave control is that when you're ahead, when you win those team fights, if you have the waves prepped previously, you get those extra objectives. You get that extra global gold and vision. As CJ, they've actually gone Metal Gear Solid style and backdooring this top lane turret.
I guess so. Janair coming up for a fight. They've got the teleport from Trace. Willie come in from the side. No wards really for Trace to come in on.
It's in base,
Inhibitor's
doesn't have
back.
home guard.
Here comes Che. Will they go for this one? There's the teleport. He's trying to get to them. Not the teleport. He's recalling right now. Che pops the ult. They really want this fight, but just not finding the angle. They put the ward down for Trace, but Janair not able to make anything out of it.
It's really scrappy. It was an forced engage by Che there. Trace wasn't even in base to go for the immediate teleport back in, and of course once he come in, the home guard would have been instantly stopped by the likes of the volley from Ash. So optimistic. They need to defend their inhibitor anyway, so CJ completely bypassed that Baron timing and even answer the inner turret with an inner turret of their own up top.
5-5. Decent gold lead for Janair right now, but it's at the point in the game where it really doesn't matter a whole lot. Wow, that is a lot of damage and a lot of gold.
I mean, the gold lead's there, ahead of his opponent by quite a bit. I mean, when you're getting, as we mentioned, 40 to 50% bonus gold for every minion, specifically the smaller minions, it definitely adds up. Plus 10 with the Avarice Blade as well. They still haven't broken this outer mid lane turret though, and they just haven't been able to force the wards in the spots they want to. So that's why you have to really commend them for their rotational play to backdoor an objective when they didn't even have predictable movement in mid, because they couldn't even push down a lane ward because that turret's still up.
Yeah, 40 minutes into the game now, and that mid turret still alive for Janair. A minute until Baron comes out, more or less. Janair's got the pressure up in top. Suppose CJ could use this opportunity to just go ahead and take out the inhibitor in bottom again if they want to.
Well, Gangplank's going to park himself bottom lane, and it remains to be seen whether Trace can go toe-to-toe. I have to think the answer is no, specifically if he's able to hit some powder keg damage with a 60% armor penetration.
Yeah.
Trace is just not going to have the items to be able to hold. This is always the case, whether it's Trundle, whether it's Fizz. Maokai in the late game needs to be grouped in forcing, because in a split push situation, he doesn't do much.
Well, Janair wants to just trade turret for turret. They're going to go ahead and go for this tier 2, backing out for the moment before coming back in, and now Shy going for that inhibitor again. Janair might just decide to give this up.
Janair's last overforce under a turret lost them a lot of pressure, and they're not going for it even this time. It feels like they need to be that decisive. Janair.
Wow, saves it for now. Shy can pretty much come back in and take that whenever he wants to.
And that's the thing. Once you take out that inhibitor turret, it's gone for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
It's always going to be a headache now that you have this mid-smash between late-game Maokai and late-game Gangplank and Shy. He doesn't have the kill score, but his influence on this game post-25 minutes has been massive.
Yeah. It's pretty simple, doing what he needs to do with Gangplank, just being that split pusher that CJ needs him to be.
If they overextend to try and take him down, which at this point will take multiple members, Baron buff is on the opposite side of the map, they'll pick up that objective easily. This is what I was talking about, is that when this specifically, your bot lane inhibitor is down on red side, Baron buff control is so damn tricky to pull off.
Yeah. Well, Baron up now, but I think Najin is more concerned about the dragon that's up in a minute. That would be their 5th, but you know, do you risk giving CJ the Baron buff by taking that 5th dragon?
The only question I can answer is, you know, we may be left with the question, do you swap Baron buff for 5th dragon? I think the example from watching tape, the answer is a resounding no. It feels like the 5th dragon will trump it in basically every way. So it feels like the big fight will be over dragon. And whether a team can sneak Baron off that, that's the question that I don't know the answer to.
I've got a feeling we're going to find out pretty soon. 45 seconds until dragon is up.
What Janair need, because they're pretty sure that the big point of contest is dragon, is to get a deep ward for the flank initiation from Trace. Now, he wasn't in position and the wards weren't there when we saw them try that 3 minutes ago, but this time the wards just aren't in a position to allow the home guard to make a big impact. So maybe he'll have to group and then you're just a Maokai who'll just try and bait out a flash. If you trade flashes with the carry you're trying to get onto, it doesn't work. And Maokai is the key to this initiation because he is the most reliable ball carrier, and Che, his Alistair mechanics have been pretty off this game.
Yeah, he's missed a lot. Ambition gets caught, though. Explosive cast. He actually body slams to Freedom. Doesn't use that ultimate just yet. Che takes a lot of damage in response.
Still has the Unbreakable Will. Still can be a ball carrier. So Ambition getting chunked out is more significant, but Happy Hour passive pretty safe. As Jinner, this is where it is so hard, and there's so many areas they can't walk through. They don't want to walk through the Victor W and then forced to back away, and Dragon's being started by CJ.
It is indeed. Powder Kegs getting set up. Chaser tries to get in there, doesn't steal the Dragon. He might get caught though. Ambition trying to hit him. There's Repel. Trace flashes in, tries to get the engage onto Ambition, but isn't in range for the twist advance. Jinair kind of milling around. There we go. Oh, Flashy misses the Pulverize though. Has to get pulled back in again by Pilot. Yeah, you're right, man. I mean, Che has not been on the ball with those Alistar mechanics in this game.
The ball is the critical fact because so much of their damage is around Orianna having the ball positioning for the shockwave. Well, Trace used Flash, Che used Flash. Now there's no ball carrier. Even Elise has used her Flash. Jinner have no initiation threat whatsoever. They don't have war control around an objective, and suddenly CJ are in a much stronger point of their scaling than Jinner can really hope to deal with because they can't initiate even if they wanted to.
Yeah, it's been close, but CJ certainly looking like the tighter team in the late game.
The question we posed, was it the Malphite? I mean, Malphite solved so many of the issues that Jinner had, specifically around closing out games.
True. The other thing, too, is I really do feel like Che is having an exceptionally bad game for what we're used to seeing from him.
Looked like he missed a pole flash at level 1, and gave up first blood, and then he's missed 2 to 3 combos as well. Shice's going to face tank. Doesn't have that many tank items, but has a lot of damage.
Got enough to handle that, finally.
And now that CJ have hit their scaling, they've got the initiation potential from space. They've got Gragas to peel for what is a massive damage carry duo between Shy and Space. And Coco's doing all right on the Victor as well, so... I mean, Jinner can still win this game with an amazing initiation play, but I'm at a loss to say where it's going to come from, though.
Yeah, it's going to have to come from a big team fight, isn't it? It's going to have to come from CJ being out of position, Mad Life or Ambition most likely getting caught, and then Jinner winning a 5v4.
It's probably telling, though, that the best fights for Jinner were initiated by Space. They were initiated by CJ going for an arrow, over-committing in the first 25 minutes when their scaling hadn't come to the fore. They're not going to make the same mistake, and now the follow-up for that initiation is massive.
Yeah, there's the arrow, gets dodged, but he's going to come right back down the same spot. Where's that flash? Doesn't have it. Chaser very low, GBM in. Oh, nice shockwave comes in. There's a kill right away. Chaser's still low, goes down, but they find the pick onto Coco. Double knockup right back into Pilot. Oh, Pilot gets nearly taken out. That was so close. Shy in a little bit of trouble now. Can he get over the wall? He can, but Jinner gonna flash after him. GBM turning around. That may be a bit of a mistake. GBM on the run now, but Shy still gonna get taken down. Oh, and GBM lives with the command protect. So 3 for 1. Jinner still with a chance. There's that fight we were talking about.
3 for 1, but honestly, CJ gave that fight completely over to Jinner. Chase just buying time, delaying Ambition from going back. Ambition has decent wave clear.
Well, they want to end it, man.
This is the time.
That's right. Jinner going for it. Ambition can't recall. The inhibitor's going to get taken out. Still a lot of time before Space, Coco, and Shy are back. Are they going to just try to end it here? Wow, it's Operation Delay Ambition. Che going after, misses that pulverize. Ambition goes over the wall. Might get a chance. He's trying to recall now, but the first Nexus turret is down. Jinner going for the second one. Ambition not making it back in time. They're going to jump onto Mad Life. There he goes. There goes the Nexus, and Jinner somehow, someway finds the fight, finds the win in game 1.
Really sloppy end to the game, Doa. They caught out Chaser. That part was good. Then they completely disregarded the positioning of the ball. Space stood on the ball for a good 5 seconds, got punished, and Jinner finally got the initiation they wanted, but it was a gift from the heavens from CJ Entus.
Dude, it really was. I mean, and even towards the end, Che, he headbutted Coco right on top of Pilot, which nearly resulted in Pilot going down. Really doesn't get any much more messy than that one was, but win is a win is a win, right? Jinner getting the lead in this best of 5.
And look, Jeanette getting the lead is certainly not their problem. They played a solid first 20 to 25 minutes of the game.
Sure.
Then just looked out of options, looked out of ideas, and it was only CJN just gifting them the hopeful, the amazing, immaculate initiation that really granted them the win. And both of these teams really have to go to the huddle, go back to the drawing board, because it was a really sloppy game one.
Yeah. I think my favorite part was towards the end where GBM flashed over the wall after Shy. He's like, I'm going to get him. And then he's like, wait a second. I've made a terrible mistake. But he got out anyway, so it was okay.
Flashed into the 3, 4, 5 AD item Gangplank and lived. That's a story he'll have to tell his children. But,
I know. I don't think they'll believe him. He'll have to bring up the VOD.
I wouldn't have believed that Jin Air could win 3-0, but Jin Air certainly not looking like the same team that proved to be the Narjanite 2 days ago.
I would say so. I mean, that was only one game. We'll see what happens when we come back. Jin Air, at least they've got the lead. They've got something to build off of. CJ, it's on them now to come back and tie things up. And again, this could be the last match of the year for either one of these teams. When we come back, guys, we'll see if CJ can tie it up.